In Ross chapter 36, we meet another weak verb type. This is the 3-hay verb section, the 3-hay verb chapter. And in this chapter, then, the weakness is not at the front end, but rather at the back end. These are called 3-hay verbs because in the lexical form of these verb forms, their lexical form ends with a mater hay, as in the verb gala. So I have gimel, lamed, hay. But notice in gala, there is no mapik here. So this hay is part of the kametz hay mater. And we can compare that to a verb like gavah, where the hay has a mapik. Here, root 3 is really a consonant hay. Whereas over here, the hay that I see is a vowel marker. It's not a real consonant. So when we have these lexical forms of 3-hay weak verbs, the hay in root 3 position then is not really a root letter, since it's not a consonant. And the real root 3 letter was probably originally yod or even vav. Either way, with 3-hay verbs, we only see root 1 and 2. The original root 3 yod, if we even have a root 3 letter, when it appears, most frequently appears as a mater yod, and then rarely as a consonant yod or a consonant vav if root 3 was originally a vav. So I give you a couple of examples here in the handout. The root letters from gala, which means to uncover or reveal. The CalPerfect 1CS is galithi, galithi. So notice that what I see here is root 1, gimel, root 2, lamed, and then the personal ending is t, and what I have here is a kirik yod, which is actually a vowel, but that root 1 yod appears to be making an appearance as a mater yod here. It's not a consonant yod. So I uncovered, or I revealed. The verb gala in the cal passive participle. Remember, the cal passive participle uses the u pattern. So under root 1, u with root 2, and then here is the yod. Notice there's no yod in the actual lexical form, but the yod reappears here, and this means uncovered. Remember, cal passive participles are not glossed with ing forms, but ed or en forms, so uncovered or revealed. And then the verb shalah, the CalPerfect 3MS is shalev. It's a stative verb, but notice here, this is a case where an original root 3 vav has appeared. This is not very common, but it does occur occasionally. He was at ease. Now what I want to do is walk you through the 3-hay inflectional patterns. And there's basically 3 sorts of inflectional patterns that we really need to pay attention to. So let's start with the first kind. So under 1.2 here, number 1, we could have a situation with no inflectional endings. No inflectional endings. There are places in our conjugation patterns where there's not an inflectional suffix, where the ending is 0. All right? What's amazing is that 3-hay verbs show a remarkable uniformity throughout the 7 stems conjugation patterns when the conjugation pattern has no inflectional ending. That is to say, when the ending is 0. The root 1 vowel is going to look just like it does in any of the verbal stems. So the things that mark a stem for what it is, the vowels, the prefixes, you're going to see those on 3-hay verbs at the front end because the verb is not weak on the front end. So everything you need to know the stem on the front end, you'll still have. The root 2 vowel, which we have been calling the theme vowel, is not going to have any of the typical theme vowels of the stems, though. And so the following uninflected endings for 3-hay verbs is going to be added to root 2. So root 2 won't take its normal theme vowel. Instead, we're going to add these endings that we see below here. Now, I want you to note that the uninflected 3-hay endings are going to apply to all stems. And so that means you cannot depend on the theme vowel to parse the verb's stem. You have to look at the front end, since the back end is weak and shows no distinctions between the stems on the back side. So let's do this real quickly. Let's pull out your handout that has the inflectional prefixes and suffixes of the Hebrew verbs, and let's see where the inflectional ending is 0 in the different conjugation patterns. So let's do that. You should have this handout in front of you, Hebrew verb personal endings and prefixes handout. So in the perfect conjugation, remember, these set of boxes are missing all vowel pointing because this set of inflectional prefixes and suffixes applies to all stems, right? So we're looking for where there's no inflectional ending. Notice that the perfect conjugation is characterized by inflectional endings because we need those suffixes to indicate who's doing the verb. But the one place where I have zero ending is in the 3ms form. Okay? In the imperfect, on the left side, the singular side, 4 of my 5 forms have zero ending. The 2fs is the only one that actually has an inflectional ending. And then on the plural side, it's only the 1CP form that has zero ending. So these are going to be the ones in the imperfect that we want to pay attention to with zero ending. Notice that in the WCIs and the jussives, my zero ending forms are the same as they are in the imperfect. So wherever the imperfect has no ending and on the back side, WCIs and jussives do the same thing. The cohortative takes commas hey there, as you remember. The imperative, where do I have zero ending? Only one place, the 2ms form. The participle has no ending on the masculine singular form. And then the infinitive, construct, and absolute don't take personal endings at all, so they're not inflected. Okay, so we want to pay attention to these forms that we just looked at here as we go through this next chart back on your handout. So we noticed that in the perfect conjugation, the uninflected forms were only 3ms. For the imperfect, it was 3ms, 3fs, 2ms, the 2fs had a Keurig yod, 1cs, and then 1cp. Those were the forms that were uninflected. The imperative, only 2ms, participle, only masculine singular, and then the infinitives, construct, and absolute don't have any inflectional endings anyway, so they have none. All right, so what's going to happen with these? What's going to happen is that my 3ms perfect forms will all add a commas hey to root 2. So let's take a verb like gala, which means to uncover. And what we have is, for the cow perfect, I get commas under root 1, as in pakad. Root 2 is lamed. And then, for the 3ms form, I'm going to add commas hey here, gala, gala. Root 1, root 2, there is no root 3, commas hey is the inflectional ending. Now, I've got a note here to compare these uninflected 3-hey forms with your paradigm below and see the consistency throughout the 7 stems. That's what we want to do now. I've given you the cow perfect 3ms as a sample form, but take a look at the other stems and their perfect 3ms forms, and I want you to notice the consistency here. Down several sections, you'll see the paradigm here, and notice that I've given you all 7 stems, and the perfect 3ms for the cow is gala, the nifal nigla, the pl gila, pual gula, hithpael hithgala, hifil higla, and the hofal hogla. Every 3ms perfect form in all the stems has the identical ending. The uninflected ending is the same. Now, what does that mean? That means that you can't go based on the root 2 vowel to know what stem it is, because they all have the same vowel under root 2. You have to look at the front end, which, if it's a normal verb on the front end, we'll be able to distinguish the nifal from the pl, right? Nifal gets a noon prefix in the perfect. The cal does not. The pl and pual have Keurig and Shurik and doubling in root 2. Nifals and cals don't have that. So you can see all the stem characteristics that you know from the front of your verb are still visible here. Now let's go back. For the imperfect forms, we saw that these were the uninflected forms here. What happens when I need to form them? Well, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have normal front side inflectional morphology for the beginning of the verb, but when I get to the end, to root 2, I'm going to add segel hey instead of the normal theme vowel for that stem. So thinking of the cal imperfect, if you remember yif code is my normal pattern, I get a yod with a Keurig for 3ms, and then I get a pay with a silent shiva. Well, if I'm using gala as my verb, it's going to be yig, and then normally I'd expect a holem theme vowel. But when I get to root 2, I just add the segel hey here. So it's yig lay. yigle, he will uncover. Yigle, 3fs, tigle, 2ms, tigle, and so forth. Now, let's again take a peek at the paradigms and see just how consistent this type of pattern is. We noticed earlier that 4 of the 5 singular forms in the imperfect have no inflectional ending. The 2fs was the only one that had a Keurig yod on the backside. Notice, by the way, that that consistently goes through all the stems. But notice here that my imperfect 3ms in the cal, yigle, has the segel hey, 3fs, tigle. The nifl has yigale and tigale. The front side follows the stem patterns, but the back side, I can't tell the difference between the stems here. Both of them have, both of these stems have segel hey, right? Because they're uninflected in the imperfect. That's the uninflected ending. Yugale, yugule, yithgale, yagle, and yogle. Again, a, all the way throughout. And you're going to see the segel hey in every form that is uninflected. All right? So again, remarkable consistency, but use the front side of the verb to be able to parse what stem it is. For the imperative, remember the imperative only has one form that is uninflected. It's the 2ms. And when I need to create a 2ms imperative, I'm going to use sere hey after root 2. Root 2 will take a sere hey. So if we're thinking in terms of our strong verb, let me jot this down over here. I would normally want to see for pakad, p, code. Vocal shava under root 1, holem with root 2. For gala, it would be g, vocal shava under the root 1. But when I get to the lamed, I don't have a root 3 to close a syllable with. I'm just going to take this sere hey and attach it to root 3. So I get gale, gale. So there is my vowel pattern, gale. So this is the command, uncover or reveal, okay, to a masculine singular person. Let's see how consistent this is throughout the stem. Down in the paradigm section, you see that the imperative 2ms form is the only uninflected form. And look, in every case, it's sere hey. In the cal, nifal, sere hey. The pl, sere hey. Remember, the pual has no imperative, and the hofal has no imperative. But the hithpal and the hifil both have sere hey for their uninflected hey forms. All right? So there is consistency there. Again, you can't look at the theme vowel because it's sere in every case in order to tell the stem. You have to look at the front side. And this is a nifalish kind of pointing. Hippocade, higale. The pl imperative is pakade. This is gale, and so forth. Back up to the patterns. For the participle, the masculine singular form is the only one that's a 0 ending form. Its 3 hey ending is segel hey after root 2. Segel hey. So remember the cal participle, the active participle is po-cade. And so for gala, it would be go. And then what would come after the lamed? That's right, segel hey. So go lay. Go lay. So that's the form, go lay. Uncovering. Now, again, let's look at the consistency in the stems here. All of my participle masculine singular forms show the segel hey. Gole, nigle, mugale, mugule, and so forth. All right? Now, this is basically just like yafeh, the adjective that we learned in Hebrew. Do you remember yafeh? Yafeh means pretty or handsome, okay? So that was a segel hey form. And if you remember, the construct form of this becomes yafeh with a sere hey. So segel hey forms in the masculine singular becomes sere hey in the construct. And this is true for our participles. So our masculine singular absolute form of the participle is segel hey. When I need to make it construct, it becomes sere hey. So just do be aware of that. Now, the infinitive construct of 3 hey verbs is amazing. amazing. We just add ot to the root 2, and the front part of the verb will follow the normal pattern for that particular stem. So if we remember our form of pakad in the cal infinitive construct, it's p-code with a vocal shava holum pattern. So pakod, cal infinitive construct. If I take a verb like gala and want to turn that into the cal infinitive construct, what am I going to do? Root 1 should get a vocal shava. Root 2 should get a holum, but for 3 hey verbs, root 2 always takes these inflectional endings. And for the infinitive construct, it's a holum vav tav. Gelot. Gelot. The act of revealing or uncovering. So notice that this does look like a feminine plural participle, but the front part does not look like the participle in the cal, right? The cal participle has a holum, so it would be golot if it were the cal participle feminine plural. This ot then is going to mark for us the infinitive construct of 3 hey verbs, and this is true for all the stems, every single one of them. So if you look down at the paradigm page, the infinitive construct forms are galot for the cal, higalot, nifal, galot, and gulot for the pl and pual, hithgalot, hithpal, haglot, and hoglot for hifil and hofal. Notice it's ot, 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 ot all the way through. That tav is basically the bonus tav that comes down like manna from heaven when we need to create an infinitive construct with a weak verb. Remember, we saw that with aphoresis in 1 noon verbs and 1 vav verbs. Anyhow, how will you know that you're looking at an infinitive construct in a particular stem? You know the ot tells you infinitive construct. It's the front part that will tell you which stem you're looking at. Doubling in root 2, you're looking at pl or pual, right? Hey prefixes, you're looking at hifil or hofal. The hit-a pattern, that's the nifal, like hippa, hippacade. Instead here, it's always going to be ot, higalot. So that's a remarkably easy and consistent pattern there to recognize. Finally, for the infinitive absolute form, we will get after root 2 either holum hey or sere hey, and it really depends on the stem at this point. So I'm not saying that the cal stem could take either of these. Some stems take holum hey, some take sere hey. The cal form takes holum hey. So if you remember, the cal infinitive absolute of pakad is pa code, right? Pa code. For gala, then it would be what? Ga, because I need a kometz under root 1 in the cal infinitive absolute, but the lamed takes a holum hey. Ga lo. Ga lo. So let's just take a quick peek here at the forms in the different stems. The infinitive absolute in the cal, as we just saw, is galo. The infinitive absolute of the nifal, niglo. Galo for the pl, gulo for the pual. But the rest of the forms show the sere hey. Hith gale for hithpal, hagle and hogle for the hifil and hofal infinitives absolute of 3 hey verbs. So this is what happens when the 3 hey verb is a verb form that has no inflectional ending or is an infinitive construct or absolute, which is uninflected anyway.